Hey guys, Skylar here. So most of you guys know me from the mint chains you can wear and the how-to videos that I've been putting up about how to make coin rings. Well, I decided to kind of switch gears on this channel a little bit and start a video blog and this is going to be my first entry. So I thought what to do for my first entry was going to be just a bit of a backstory about how I got here, how I got to making coin rings. So I'm originally from Arizona, and after I got married, we moved up here in 2002. And back in Arizona, I started work with family business, which was fake rock pools and waterfalls, and basically everything fake rock. And then once I moved up here, a year later, my parents actually moved up here too, and the family business came up with it. So shortly after they moved up, I started back in the family business again, and we switched gears though into manufacturing. So we were manufacturing fake rock panels at that point for contractors. It was during that time, in about 2004, as I started getting really sick with some mysterious thing. Didn't know what it was, and it really affected me energy-wise. It was like a lot of fatigue, a lot of pain, stomach pain, stuff like that, and I couldn't figure out what it was. So it went on for a couple years, and I still tried to continue to work throughout that. But as time went on, working really wasn't as much of an option for me. It became a lot more debilitating. And so about the time the economy started to slip down in 2008, I was basically at my worst. And because I couldn't work that well, and then the business began to falter because of the economy, I found myself basically unemployed. I had to back out of the family business because it wasn't enough for everybody to survive on. And since I was more or less a liability, I wasn't working, so I was more or less a liability. I decided to back out of it. And it was during that time I actually became a Christian too. So I was more or less an agnostic before that. I had no idea that there was a God. I didn't really think about it a lot. Didn't really care about it a lot. That was my lowest point of my life right there. And out of desperation, I cried out to God. I didn't know. I thought honestly, I didn't really think anything of God. I didn't know anything about him, or I didn't know who he was. I didn't know what to expect. So I spent a couple days and I scrounged up a Bible and I started reading it. And as I got to reading it, I got kind of frustrated, more than frustrated. I got angry, and I decided to pray again. And I asked God, like, if you're out there, if you're real, send me somebody to understand this. I don't understand it. It was within a day or two that there was a Christian college student knocked on my door. And that's pretty wild. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't talk to my wife about it. I didn't talk to my other family members about it at all. But anyway, he came and knocked on my door, and he was fulfilling, his some degree requirement where he was doing visitation. So anyway, there's this college student sitting on my front door, and I just laid into the guy. I had all kinds of questions, and I was mad. And so anyway, after the initial onslaught, he's like, well, let me get my professor out here. He might be able to help you out. So anyway, the next day he brings his professor back, and we got to talking about it. And it was really at that point in my life that I became a Christian. It was just everything, the lights clicked on for me. Everything changed in my life from that point on. And right after that, I finally realized, after a couple years of being sick, what was wrong with me. I was praying God to answer this, to get me better, first of all, but I didn't know what I had. I was so freaked out. I thought I had cancer. I thought, I got a tattoo one time and I thought that he reused a needle. I thought I got AIDS or something. I didn't know. So anyway, it was right after that, within a month or two of becoming a Christian, accepting Christ, that I got an answer finally. So I had Lyme disease. That's what it was. I had Lyme disease. And along with Lyme disease, if anyone's kind of familiar with it, it creates a lot of problems. And it's a little bit different for everybody, but for me, it was a lot of fatigue, extreme stomach pain, extreme nausea, joint pain, a lot of brain fog. I had a hard time understanding, concentrating, and along with it came some anxiety. I'm not an anxious person. I never have been. I'm more of an extrovert. And there was a point that I spent 6 months inside the house. I couldn't leave. There was a point every day, the mailman would come by every morning, and I've always been a really work-driven guy, so it was hurtful to my pride to be laying on the couch, in front of the front window where he puts the mail in. And so every day, like, I hear him come up the steps, I just roll off the couch and hide. And that's kind of where I was at that point. It was rough. So then I started going to a Lyme literate doctor, actually a Lyme specialist here. a lot of people all over the country fly into this lady, Dr. Stacy Rafferty. It was also at that point too, after I stopped working with the family business, that I started looking into coin rings. I didn't know anything about it. The kids were watching a Saturday morning cartoon on OPB, and as I turned it on, I walked away. I heard them saying that someone had a ring that was made out of a quarter. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what that would look like, you know? And I ran back into the room to see what the thing looked like. And anyway, it was off the screen by that time, so I didn't get to see it. But that kind of planted the seed for me in my mind, you know? And then I started looking at Google Images, and I saw a bunch of pictures of coin rings. And so then, at that point, I saw what they looked like. I did some reading on the internet, but, you know, this was probably 3-4 years ago, and there really wasn't a lot out there about coin rings at that point, as far as how to. And so then I just went to the bank, and, you know, I got to remember, at this point, I'm pretty broke. You know, I haven't had a job for a while. I was burning up all my savings. But I went to the store, or to the bank. I went to the bank and got a roll of quarters, and just started destroying quarters. Through that, I got the basic idea down of what I needed to do to make coin rings. And then I think it was May, and Mother's Day was the first one I actually sold for profit. And I started on Facebook buy-sell trade pages. I would post a picture of them up there and sell them that way. And all I had to make them with was, you know, a mandrel and a mallet. And I drilled the coins out with a regular drill, and they looked horrible. They were nasty looking, and they had a huge cone to them. But I sold a ton of them on those Facebook buy-sell trade pages. It was amazing. And by doing that, I got to take the money that I got from it and invest it into more tools. And I know I get all kinds of comments on YouTube about, oh, well, these tools are so expensive, and I'll never be able to have all these tools, and, you know, this, that, and the other thing about the tools. Well, start with the basics and then work towards, you know, the more complex. And that's what I did. That's all I did. And it slowly built up the tool selection and built up my understanding. And, you know, every couple months I would figure something new out to do, and it kind of evolved into the way I do it now with the ball bearings. But really, you know, I never have been completely healed from the Lyme disease thing. And that's one thing I really wanted to dedicate this channel to, is kind of life after chronic illness. You know, there's life after chronic illness. I had this thought in my head, it happened every year, especially when I was really, really sick, that like I only have this many summers left in my life. And summers in Oregon, if everyone knows about Oregon, it's like lovely, it's awesome. You want to get your kayak out there, you want to go out hiking, you know, you want to go out ride bikes or motorbikes or go shooting or do all kinds of cool things out here. And I thought I saw it slipping away. And I came to the point where I thought I was never going to, you know, be able to enjoy my life, and I thought it was pretty much over. And I couldn't have been more wrong. And, you know, when I became a Christian, that really changed my thought process, as I started to really realize that God's got us covered. This guy I'm friends with on Facebook, he does these video blogs kind of like this, but a little bit different. But he's like, man, God's got your front, he's got your back, he's got your side, he's got your other side, up, down, he's got you completely covered. And I realized that there's a solution to the problems that I was having. And despite the anxiety, despite the, you know, the fatigue and all those things, I just started getting out there, and I realized that God had me covered. I didn't have to worry about anything. And that revolutionized my life. And that's really helped me get into this coin ring business. It's helped me do all kinds of other things. That's kind of my life story up to this point. You know, that's just a brief overview. And this channel, really, I wanted to dedicate it to, you know, the day-to-day of, you know, what I'm doing. I'm basically a stay-at-home dad, even though I work full-time in this coin ring thing. But I'm working, you know, with a handicap, kind of. I got a chronic illness. And coin rings are a big part of my life. So I'm going to, you know, every time I have an interesting project or something like that, I'll probably be dealing with that. And then every now and then I'm probably going to do a how-to of something random. I think the first video I uploaded to this was a how-to pallet table with a 4 penny top. So I'm going to be doing stuff like that. So if you guys are interested, you know, stay tuned. I'm just going to try to post up a video probably once a week or so and see how it goes.